Okay, this is a AR with a, man, it's hard to see out here, regular standard trigger. Okay, standard trigger, 10 round in the mag. I'm going to shoot it as fast as I can shoot it, and then I'm going to put in a drop-in trigger and shoot it as fast and see if I can tell the difference. Rounds. How long was that? And I even stalled a little bit. Let's go change the trigger. Okay, changing a trigger here. I'm going to put in this Blackout trigger. When you open this up, I wasn't impressed with the instructions. It comes with 2 bags and an Allen wrench. And in one bag, it's green with 2 screws, and in the yellow, it's got 1 screw. You have to go online, and then they have a PDF. Wasn't really impressed that there was no way to do this. I ended up calling a company. Great company. I'll put a link where I bought it. Answered the phone. Lady I talked to understood the trigger, knew the trigger, explained it. Explained it to where I couldn't understand it, but once we kind of got terminology down, you'll notice there's yellow holes underneath here. I don't know why there's 2. And there is, when you pull the trigger, there are red holes inside. So these 2 green holes right here, what they are is pressure screws. So once I put my pin in here, I'm going to stick this little Allen wrench down here, which is on these green screws here, and I'm going to push those down. So when there's a pin through here and connected to the frame, pushing those screws down is going to lock this trigger onto that pin, which I like. So I'm not even going to put anti-lock pins on here. I'm going to use my original pins to see if it works. But I'm going to go out and just shoot 10 rounds out of this. And but first we got to get this trigger in, which means I have to get the old trigger out. When taking out the old trigger, you need to take out your pistol grip. Remember, the pistol grip has a spring and a little follower or pusher for your safety. So I need to take my safety out. I think I need to take my safety out. Wonder if I need to. Maybe I don't need to take my safety out. Hang on. If you don't need to take the safety out... Oh yeah, I have to. Because it's got to go under there. But you know what? I'll try it first. Let's see here. So, your spring is under tension. If you let it go, it's not under tension. It's up here. Either way, when you're pushing these out, sometimes manipulating this makes it an easier push out. And if it doesn't want to go out, like this one doesn't, a little soft hammer tap will usually break that seal. Okay. So now that we got them both started, I'm going to push one out, and it is out. I haven't pulled this out yet because the spring's going to be loose. When I pull this out, you want to be ready, and then I'm going to push this one in, and that one came out, and now everything is under tension. So when you undo this, because the spring is in here like so, so it's a lot under tension. So that's going to come out. This little centerpiece is going to come out. And then your trigger, your standard GI trigger is going to come out. If it won't come out without me taking off the safety. So I do need to pull it off. I thought I had to pull that off. So when you're taking the pistol grip off, I thought maybe I could cheat and not have to do it. There is a little spring that you're going to see appear right here. See that little spring coming out there? Right there, where my thumb's at. See that little spring? That's what you don't want to pop out. So hold your pistol grip on while you're unscrewing this nut all the way out. And then once you get it all the way out, get ready to catch that little spring. Here's that little spring sitting right there. And up here is a follower that when I tap, it's going to fall out, or manipulate the safety, it'll fall out. It's still in there. Can you see that little thing? So I'm going to bang on it. There it goes. So this is your little follower. I've done a video to where if you want to make your safety smaller or softer, round this off. Just take a little piece of sandpaper and make this very smooth. And I've done that. And my safety's a lot, because this is the thing that pushes into safety when you turn it on and off. So I'm going to put these two things on the side over here. I'm going to finish pulling my trigger. Oh, I got to pull the safety out, or the safety selector out. Probably the trigger's in the way. So it should just come straight out. And now my trigger will come out. So standard GI trigger, usually 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. Drop in trigger, 1 piece. Okay? Drop it in. Looks like it has to be cocked. Drop it in. Put my pins in, and then screw down those. So let's see if I can get my pins in here pretty easy. Man, that went in really easy. And that pin went in pretty easy. Now, if you just do this, when you're shooting and banging and moving, these pins will come out, which is why they suggest having anti-lock pins. You can Loctite them, and they screw together like so they can't fall out like this. But I'm going to do these and see if this little tightening of these 2 screws that puts pressure on this will hold those pins in. And I'm going to go shoot 10 rounds. So these 2 screws that I'm tightening, which are right there on each side of the trigger, those were the ones with the 2 green dots on the bottom that you saw. Those screws I'm screwing down, which is forcing this trigger up, which is putting pressure on these 2 pins. Okay? Now, you may ask, what are these 2 green things are? These 2 are safety backouts. I would screw these on top of these 2 screws, so these screws that I just screwed down will not back out. So basically these are safety screws that go on top that I should put some Loctite on, so this will not loosen up as I shoot. I don't think this is going to loosen up. I can't push that pin out. So it's putting enough pressure to where I can't push those pins out. And I'm not even going to put the safety things in there. I'm only going to go out and shoot this with me just tightening those 2 things. So let's see if the trigger works. Pull the trigger. Should go bang. There it is. Okay? Now I need to put my safety back in. I wonder if I loosen those screws that I tightened, if that will allow the trigger to fall for me to get the safety in. Let's see if that works. Holy shit, it's a miracle. So those little screws, still pretty tight, but it's in there. So those 2 little screws have to be tightened after you put your safety back in. Alright? So I'm not even going to tighten them yet. I'm going to put my little safety follower in, get my grip in with the spring in the hole, get this pin back down in there, my grip screw, which I can never see, reverse so I don't strip it. Okay, make sure my pins are right. Now I'm going to screw those 2 screws down, which is forcing the trigger up, locking these pins in. I want to make sure those pins are in there nice and flat like they're supposed to be. Alrighty. On safe doesn't fire, on fire it fires. Safe does not fire. So guns back together. I'm going to put 10 more rounds of ammo in here and go shoot it and see which one's faster. Okay, after I installed the new trigger, 10 round mag. Somebody put me on a timer from the first round to the last round. I think it's a little bit smoother, shorter reset, nice trigger. Okay, battery's a little low. Hopefully it won't stop on me. I really like that trigger. Very smooth. Remember, now this is not a forced reset trigger. This is your standard drop-in trigger, Blackout. I always like to kind of overshoot or try and overshoot the gun and cause a jam. And I didn't. It fired 10 rounds flawlessly and I was pulling it pretty quick. That's even before I got my timing down. It'll probably get quicker if I shot a lot with it. I would recommend this trigger. So I need to get these 2 secondary backout screws put in there with some Loctite. This screw is if there was a little slack in the trigger, I could put this screw underneath the trigger. If you remember, it had a yellow dot on the back there. And if I put this screw in here and I raise it up, it will cause, it will take out the slack on the reset. I'm okay with the slack on the reset. Make sure my gun's okay, so I'm not seeing a lot of slack there. There's my reset, and there's my pull. Pretty nice trigger. Let me try to zoom in on that. So, here's my trigger fired. I'm going to hold it back. Here's your reset, and here's my pull. Wow. Nice trigger. Reset, pull. Very nice. This is not a forced reset. This isn't illegal. This is a standard trigger. This is what people may call a competition trigger or a shorter reset, whatever. So now what I'm going to try to do is see how far when it's just pulled straight from my first round. Not much. I didn't have any slack. That is a very, very nice trigger. I have 2 other drop-in triggers. This is the nicest one, no doubt. My other ones are nice. My other ones are nicer than the standard GI. And to be honest, the standard GI trigger is fast enough. It's a little bit of a reset. I mean, there's no reason I need to fire any quicker than that. And I would normally, if you're aiming for accuracy, wouldn't be firing that quick anyway. However, if I want to fire fast and want to lay down some suppressive fire 3 or 4 rounds, I can do that much better with a shorter reset trigger. I can also double tap and put 2 rounds on target a lot quicker with a shorter reset trigger. So, very nice trigger. My only complaint about Blackout is the instructions weren't real good, and I even downloaded, and I'll slide in a copy of the download to the instructions, and they're okay, but between me talking to the lady that told me what to do and me asking a bunch of questions, because she was explaining it because she knew the trigger. So she was explaining all these terms, and I told her, I go, you know what? I've been around guns my whole life, and you just told me how to put this trigger in, and you lost me after about the third word. I have no idea what you're talking about. Her terminology was not what my terminology. I'm not saying she's wrong. She was using the standard, what they told her to say, what she learned, how she was taught, and it wasn't connecting to me at all. If she had told me that your trigger pins that hold your trigger in place are locked in by putting pressure on this, and those two screws you screw down and it lifts your drop-in trigger up and puts pressure on those pins and it keeps them in place, I would have got it. But the way she explained it, I had no idea. She explained, I go, I have no idea what you're talking about. She did it again, and finally, like I normally do, I have to kind of take over my terms and go, let me ask you questions. Does this do this? No. Does it do this? No. Does it do this? Yes. Okay, so now I know what it does and I know how to explain it. So, and again, I tell people that, you know, we used to, when we were teaching about communication, we would put two people back to back. They couldn't see each other. We'd give one person a book of matches and we'd give the other person a book of matches. And we would tell the person over here, don't do anything unless this person tells you. Even if you know how to get a match out and strike it, don't do it. And we would tell this person, don't pick up your matchbook, but describe to her how to pull a match out and light it. And you would be amazed how nobody could light a freaking match. Because they were back to back, they couldn't see, they would use terms that the other one didn't know. This person would say, turn the matchbook, open it. And they would open it and they'd be looking on the inside. And they go, now fold it back on itself. And the person would fold it over the striker. Okay, now pull a match off and run it over the black thing. And they'd be lost. I mean, it's really an amazing kind of test or testimony on how communication is so important to make sure you have feedback, you're looking at the person, you can see in their face. When I'm talking on a computer or I'm talking to that lady over the phone, she couldn't get that she was losing me, so I'm just letting her talk and explain this, and when she got finished, she was like, yeah, and that's how I do it. We do it all the time. It's no problem. It's really easy. And I was like, lady, I've been around guns my whole freaking life. And I have no clue what the hell you just said. Nice lady, good company. They answer the phone. They are willing to talk you through it. I would like them to have a video on how to put it in there. I mean, it's 2022. Come on, Blackout Trigger, whoever it is. Blackout Defense, I think is where I got it. You guys can't spend 30 minutes and do a video on how to proper weigh and the problems and things to look for and why things you're doing is doing it. Now, I just did a video and I think I explained it pretty well. Again, one yellow screw I could use on the back of the trigger to raise the back part up if there was slack in the trigger. There's no slack, so I'm not using this. These two screws are nothing more than back out screws for the two that already exist. The two that you screw down to lock the trigger in, you put these on top of them after you get them at the right tension, and these will tighten down on top of the other screws. So in order for the other screws to loosen, these have to loosen, then the other screws have to loosen. It's just kind of like a fail-safe. Remember, one is none, two is one. In military tactics, training, everything, if you only have one, you got none, because if that breaks, you're screwed. If you have two and one breaks, you have one. So the theory is one is none and two is one. Always have a backup, redundancy, always have contingencies in case something goes wrong. And that's kind of what these two screws are. Nice trigger, a little pricey, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. It was 199 bucks. I thought it was a little pricey. It's half the price of that force reset, and that force reset wouldn't work in this gun. It wouldn't work in my other pistol. So, and this one isn't even a pistol. It's just got a shorter buffer because it's got a collapsible stock. And I was overshooting the gun. I'd get one, Okay, so my battery went dead, and I wanted to show this anyway. So here's the trigger I got. It was 3 pounds. It's just got that little double hash, like a pound sign with one line missing. I forgot what that's called. I think that's not equal, or instead of equal, it's not equal. I don't remember. But maybe that's not what it means. Maybe it doesn't. So you can get the 3 or the 4.5 pound. Mine was a 3 pound. You can get the curved, or you can get the straight trigger. Let me go back to triggers and you can see the different triggers they have. These are pretty well made triggers. I mean, I looked at them. They look pretty nice. And this company seems like they do pretty good stuff. They have firearm stuff, lower receivers, other things. They aren't giving me anything. I didn't get anything free. I'm doing this only to share what I got, and if I like it. I don't care if you buy it or you don't buy it. I'm just telling you kind of my experience on the trigger was pretty good. Here's some parts and accessories. I don't know what they have here. Looks like some lowers, some triggers, charging handle, maybe flash suppressor, maybe some barrels. Wow, they have quite a bit of stuff. All right. Wow, they could at least send me a freaking hat for... No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so here's my complaint. Okay, so now I was nice to them. Now I'm going to tell them what the problem is. So I'm going to go back to triggers. I'm going to go to my trigger, 3-pound. And so here's my trigger. So I come here and I order the trigger, right? You look at this, you order the trigger. And when I roll down here, normally when it changes color, I think I'm getting into their about. So I didn't think any of this was that important. But it does have all the specs. And then kind of down here, to me it's hidden until you hover over it. I see PDF instructions. But when I ordered it, I didn't see that. So if it was up to me, this would be up here by the trigger. But it ain't my website, and I don't want to give them too much advice. So if you click on the PDF instruction, here's what you get. Let me shrink this down. So caution, certified gunsmith, blah, 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 blah. Drop in the trigger. Install anti-walk trigger pins. You really don't need the anti-walk trigger pins with these little screws they have. Gently tighten all 4 trigger pin screws. So if you have the anti-lock trigger pins, then you want to tighten them. But you don't want to tighten them up completely because you haven't used the set screws. I don't know if they call them set screws. I'm calling them set screws. Okay, so find the pre-installed locking screws on your trigger housing, figure B. Here's figure B. Internal locking screws. Not a great picture. Right here is the 2 little screws. When you're looking at it, it's 2 holes. When you're looking down at it, it looks a lot better than this picture. Let me see if I can blow this up to 150. See if that clears it up any bigger. Not really, huh? Yeah, I'll go back down. All right. So included in the packing is a second set of locking screws. Install and tighten the second set of locking screws over the pre-installed tighten ones. And that's what I'm talking about. Once you tighten these, you get your extra set, which is I call blackout prevention, and you put them over there for redundancy so these screws don't come loose. If these screws come loose, you may lose these trigger pins if you don't have locking. If you have locking and it comes off, you may just get a little wobble in your trigger housing. But I don't even think you'll get that. Tighten all 4 pins, install, so they don't really mention the yellow screw on the instructions. They ought to add that. When I talked to the lady, she explained what it is. Right back here on the rear part, underneath, you saw a yellow dot here and a yellow dot here. If you put that yellow dot screw here, you raise this up, which takes out any slack in the trigger. None of that says that here. Again, it would be very easy for this company to freaking do a video. Come on, people. I mean, you could have PDF instruction. Here is a video of us installing the trigger, answering most questions. You can even allow comments so people go, hey, here's what I found or whatever, and then update it. But I think they make a good trigger. I would recommend it. But their instructions and this, I think, needs some work. All right, we'll end that there. Y'all enjoy. Remember, this is not a forced reset. Nothing illegal about this. Nothing questionable. This is simply a standard AR trigger that's a drop-in enclosed mechanism. When I was talking about that screw, when you screw at the bottom here, that third screw, it takes out the slack here. And this is how you lose that slack. So that's that third package screw that you get, and you're kind of like, what the hell is this for? That's what it's for. All right, we'll end that there. Y'all have a good one.